Hi, I'm Mr. Muso. There are a number of factors that led to the revolution of 1789. Cause number one, the system of government. The system of government was despotic. Louis XVI was the ruler of France. He was despotic in nature. He was a tyrant. He was an authoritarian. He was a dictator. He possessed all the political powers. It is said that the last time the government in France met was in 1614. So this meant that all the powers were in his hands. He had powers over everything that transpired in the country. This frustrated the other classes in the society. The other classes were the middle class or the bourgeoisie, and there was also the peasantry. The middle class were the people who were educated, but despite being educated, they were not part and parcel of the government. So these were the people who time and again conscientized the people about the despotic nature of the government of Louis XVI. The government of Louis XVI did not try people by jury. There were laws that were used to suppress the other classes in the society. These laws disadvantaged the middle class and the peasants in a number of occasions. The people were always oppressed. So this led these other classes to rebel against Louis in 1789. They wanted liberalism. They wanted to be in a position to freely express their minds or their thoughts. Newspapers in the country were censored. They always talked about the goodness of the regime of Louis XVI. This again, it brought frustration to the people. Another cause which led to the revolution of 1789 was the American War of Independence. France participated in the American War of Independence. She was not prepared for this war. France did not have enough resources. She did not have enough money to participate in this war. Louis XVI was warned by his brother Louis XIV not to involve France in expensive wars, but he did not listen. He had to make France participate in this American War of Independence, and this war drained France financially. After the war, its treasury was bare. After the war, the country did not have enough money. The price of goods started to skyrocket. The price of goods started to increase, inflation started to occur in the country, and in order to arrest this situation, Louis had to levy taxes to the people. People were already overburdened by several taxes that they were made to pay. And this explains why the revolution had to occur in 1789. Another cause which led to the French Revolution was the influence of the philosophers. Philosophers were the people who were educated. These were the middle class. Examples of these philosophers were Voltaire, Montesquieu, J. Rousseau. They wrote articles, they wrote in the newspapers explaining about the despotic nature of the system of government of Louis XVI. They preached about the ideals of liberty, people to be in a position to freely express themselves. They preached about the ideals of equality. They wanted equality in the country. They preached about the ideals of fraternity, whereby people were going to regard each other as brothers and sisters. These ideals that they preached conscientize the people, and it explains why the people in 1789 gathered courage and they rebelled against the government of Louis XVI. Another cause which led the revolution of 1789 was the financial crisis. France's treasury was bare. France did not have enough finances. France was no longer in a position of financing all the programs that were supposed to be done in the country. The situation was worsened by Louis. He had to dismiss able reform ministers such as Turgot, such as Necker. These reform ministers wanted to revamp. They wanted to revive the financial position in the country. But Louis, after being influenced by his wife Mary Antoinette, he had to dismiss these able reform financial ministers. And it worsened the financial situation in the country. And as a result of this, in 1789, Louis had to call for the Estates General. Why? Because he wanted the financial situation in the country to be improved. The revolution of 1789, it occurred as a result of the extravagance of Mary Antoinette. Mary Antoinette was the wife of Louis XVI. She bought a pair of shoes every week. She had so many horses. She had so many servants. And it is also said by some scholars, she paid people just for basking in the sun. When France was facing a serious financial crisis, a serious financial problem, she was splashing the resources of the country at the expense of the people who were suffering in the country. The peasants were suffering, but Mary Antoinette was inconsiderate. She wasted money willy-nilly, and this frustrated the people, explaining why the revolution occurred in 1789. Mary Antoinette was also not educated. Her mother, Queen Teresa, confessed that her daughter did not have good taste of education. This frustrated the people because the French people wanted their king to marry someone who was educated. And as a result of this, the revolution had to occur in 1789. Mary Antoinette came from Austria. France was involved in a war with Austria sometime, which was called the 7-Year War. And in this war, France was heavily defeated. This war brought a lot of embarrassment. It brought a lot of humiliation to the French citizens, such that they did not want to hear anything that had to do with Austria. Louis went on to marry a person from Austria. Austria, which was hated by the French people. This increased the hatred that the people had against Austria. And it explains why, again, the revolution had to occur in 1789. The revolution took place in 1789 because of the droughts of 1788. Serious droughts occurred in 1788. There was a hailstorm, crops could not do well, and the people started to have serious problems of food. Hunger was the order of the day. Starvation, poverty was rampant in the country. And the government did not do anything to assist the people who were facing such challenges. Louis was quoted as saying that he was not capable of doing anything addressing the problem that these people were facing. His wife, Mary Antoinette, had to tell the people that if they could not buy food, they were supposed to buy cakes. Cakes were more expensive than the food that the people were wanting or were demanding in the country. The revolution also took place because of the issue of taxes. The French people paid several taxes. These taxes were categorized into two classes. They were what were known as the direct taxes, and they were also what were known as the indirect taxes. These taxes were increased time and again. Louis did not consider that these taxes were bringing serious hardships, serious problems to the people. He was inconsiderate, and as a result of this, people were frustrated, and it explains why they had to revolt in 1789. Another factor that led to the revolution of 1789 was the calling of the Estate General. The Estate General was called in 1789, and the representatives of these estates, the first estate, the second estate, and the third estate, attended this meeting. Louis had to call for this estate without formulating an agenda. He did not write down, he did not think about what was supposed to be discussed on this Estate General. On this day, the third estate refused to have their meeting in their own room. They wanted this meeting to be held in one room where all the classes were going to be represented. Louis refused to this demand, and this led the third estate to go at a nearby tennis court. They took what was known as the tennis court oath, and they declared that they were there by the will of the people, and they were not going to disperse until the point of bayonet. They started singing, and this led Louis to eventually call the Estate General, and the meeting was eventually held in one room. And this was a revolutionary victory in the history of France. These are the causes that led to the revolution of 1789.